meeting for August 17th, and I'll go ahead and present my screen. Let me know if you can see.
Yes, you can see.
Yeah, okay. So last week we went over quite a bit, and we had an awesome, huge presentation by Keysight and Mircea, and we talked about these two pull requests here with the config generator and the hero test update. And I sent notes, but we talked about all these different things while we were talking about the presentation. And specifically, we talked about the need to talk about whether we need that keep alive in the connections per second test. So I was hoping we could talk about that a little bit more today, or if anyone had thought about that in the last 7 days. I was hoping we could have a short Q&A on that, maybe starting out with that, if you wanted to do that, Mircea. And then I was also hoping we could talk about maybe moving towards stage 3 of the test maturity stages. If that works for you guys.
Yeah, for the keep alive, so there are two things that we can do. It's either the flow timer could be modified from 1 second, let's say, to 2 seconds or 3 seconds, and then the keep alive is not needed. But then it changes the fact that hero test says keep the flow timer at 1 second. That will be a possibility not to send the keep alive. The other one, since the data was already sent, we can basically not send the keep alive, and then the flow will be terminated by the DPU. I don't think it will affect too much the stats on my side, but probably the DPU will consider these flows as terminated if it holds such stats. So, yeah, those are the two options.
Yeah, did anyone need a recap of what was going on there with that conversation, or they didn't attend last week? Any questions on that?
Yeah, sorry for that. I can give a quick summary. So basically, the moment a device has a capability of, I don't know, let's say 3 million CPS, but the requirement is to keep 6 million active flows, you can bring only 3 million up every second. So first second, you bring 3 million up. On the second, you bring another 3 million up for the total of 6 million. Now, the first 3 million flows, they need to live for 2 seconds. Otherwise, if you terminate them, on the second, you will not have 6 million flows on the DPU. You will have only 3 because you expired the other. So that means that the flow needs to live, let's say, 2 seconds in this case. And if you need to leave it for 2 seconds, you need to send the keep alive for 2. Otherwise, the flows will be expired with a timer of 1 second. So that's add an extra packet or 2, because if you actually need to keep it for 2 seconds, you want to send the packet at 0.999 seconds, kind of, and not wait for the second to pass, because otherwise, the flow is gone, expired by the DPU. So that is a context, and that adds an extra packet. And where the discussion started is because the hero test specifies 6 packets and talks about the TCP packets. Does not mention anything about data, and neither about the keep alive when it does the math. And yeah, I believe there will be data packets, which will be 2 packets, so 6 plus 2 plus the keep alive. So we are already at 8 to 10 packets for each flow at this time. And like I said, the solution is one. Yeah, we can send the keep alive. That's one solution. The other will be increase the flow timer from the test from 1 second to 2 seconds or 3 seconds. And the other one will be basically don't send the keep alive and just let the flow be terminated by the DPU and see what happens.
Does anyone have strong opinions on this? I know we talked about it a lot last week.
Hi, Mircea. Just one additional suggestion in terms of just leaving the timer at 2 seconds. can you just add some variant to it so that we can have the flow aging out at the different times, so that basically you will handle the case where new flow is being learned while the existing flow also being timeout. So basically have the capability to vary in the flow timeout between 1 and 2 seconds.
Oh yeah, the flow timer can be configured. The discussion was only about the fact that the test, as it is described in the hero test document that is present in Git, says 1 second. So I ran it. It's configurable. People can put it to 2 seconds, 3 seconds, or 1 second. I was just bringing it up that either the number of packets increases or either we need to increase the flow timer. Both are configurable. So
I don't mean to ask any change to the approach that you mentioned. I meant to ask, even though we configure like 1 second or 2 seconds, should we allow the configuration like within like between 1 and 2, right? So that for that 3 million flow, you can vary in the timeout. So it simulates a more realistic scenario. That's what I'm trying to say. Because in the real network, you're going to have 3 million flow all come at once, so all age at the same time, right? So that's what I'm asking for that variant.
That is correct. Yeah, that is correct. Okay. And the test requires that to have all these flows aging out and new flows being installed every second. And this is mostly like a stressful scenario. It's not, let's say, the real use case. I think in the real use case, this flow timer, it's set, I don't know, 60 seconds, 90 seconds. I think it's set much higher. But in order to stress the device, the most stressful will be basically 1 second and basically have new flows added and removed every second. So this is just a stress scenario. It's not the real use case.
Yeah, but the same test you run can also be simulated to a typical scenario as well, right? If you allow the variant of the timer rather than the fixed timer for all the flow, that's all I'm suggesting.
Yeah, of course it can be
okay.
done.
Got it. Thank you.
Hey, Mircea, actually, I have a question here. So the flows that you're talking about here, is this the background flow you're referring to, or the CPS flows?
The CPS flows.
So for CPS flows, at least my understanding is like it's 6-packet flow, right? Like, so it just opens the connection and then closes. Like, so why do it has to stay for like more than a second? Like it should get closed within like few microseconds.
Yes, but if you do that, you will not have in the flow table the 6 million flows that are required, or 7 million flows, whatever, if we consider the UDP traffic as well.
No, like there is a background traffic.
So you have 1 million background TCP, you have 1 million background UDP, and you have 5 million which gets created and destroyed every second. The problem is if the DPU is not able to do 5 million and it does, let's say, 2.5 million, then you need to have the flows live for 2 seconds in order to have a flow table installed in the DPU of 5 plus 1 plus 1 million. Otherwise, your flow table will be only, it will be very small. The flow table will not get full if you don't keep those flows alive.
No, that's the part I'm not getting. Like, so why is that a focus, right? Like, so we have a background traffic with like as per the hero test, 2 million TCP and 2 million UDP background traffic, and then whatever CPS that the DPU can do. Like if it is let's say 3 million CPS, then half of it will be TCP 3 million. Sorry, 1.5 is TCP, 1.5 is UDP. So the flow table usage will be like 4 million for background and 1.5 for UDP. Since we have 1 second timeout, right? Then the TCP will just at any given point of time, maybe there will be like 500 to 100 active flows within the DPU. So, but that's the expectation, right? Like, so, yeah, like I'm not getting why the usage of the flow table within the DPU is a focus, right? So this is just working as per the expectation. So like the connection will just come and go because it's going to stay alive only for within those few microseconds.
Yeah, so let me share my screen and I'll show again the paragraph that is in question. Flow table size. You need to have 14 million flow, or 14 or 7 million. When I talk, it's if it's bidirectional or not. Some it's calculated as 7 if you have both directions, or 14. So this is what I'm talking about. Flow table size. I need to see in your flow table or the device flow table 14 million flows. Okay, you have 2 from TCP, 2 from UDP background traffic, and these are from the CPS ones. If I am to keep this flow table at this size, if the DPU cannot do 5 million CPS, I need to leave the flows longer. Otherwise, they go out of the table, and the table never has 14 million size. This is the line that I'm referring.
Yeah, but maybe this line can be changed, right? I mean, it's like
this is what I'm saying. Given the age, timer can be changed. I mean, if we make changes, that's fine, but it needs to be agreed with everyone. So you know, we can change here and put 2 seconds, and then it's fine. Maybe, but then if somebody cannot do 2.5 million CPS, and then it's 3 seconds, and again the test changes. So I'm okay with changes. This is what I'm saying. There are options, but there will be changes, and somebody needs to agree. Mainly, basically, Microsoft, I would say, with the changes and change the test.
I think the problem with this, the way this is written, is that there's no explicit description of the flow lifetime. Like you're inferring the flow lifetime from this line in this bullet. And I think it would be better if this would like explicitly, you know, said the flow lifetime should be X. And then, you know, the flow table size is what it is based on whatever the flow lifetime size, whatever the flow lifetime is. It's, I think it's like the specification of this hero test is
okay. Let me give another line here where it says each flow must receive 1 packet every second in each direction in order to keep this alive and fill up the links. So if I need to send basically,
this is the for the background traffic, right?
I mean, you need to send it also for the other one if you want to keep that flow table. This one keeps saying.
But this bullet is referring to the background traffic because it's saying 1 packet every second, and then it says in conjunction with the dynamic traffic. Right, so like I think that this bullet is really just referring to how to keep the background traffic alive.
I'm taking a snip of that just to make sure we can get clarification, John.
Yeah, I still don't find a way without sending the packet to have this flow table and actually ask the DPU, hey, what's your flow table size? And I get really small flow table sizes if I don't. Yeah, I did initially the test with I was terminating and sending the fin and everything super fast. But then this flow table size, when I asked the DPU what your flow table size was, really small, like 10,000 to 100K, not even reaching a million.
Hey,
I'm disregarding this background traffic. I'm talking about only this because this is in question. The background is background that stays there.
Yeah, so if you see here, right, it clearly says TCP connection is established and terminated without any data packets. So CPS TCP connection has to be 6 packets, right? And like John said, like I think like clarifying the lifetime of the CPS connection would help. But as far as I understood, like it just does the 6 packet transaction and it just disappears. But like you have half of the CPS connection as UDP, right? So you will still get like in the 5 million CPS, you will see a 2.5 million connections from UDP that stays in the flow table. So it's for the TCP where it just comes and disappears within this short period. Right, like so, yeah, I agree that like clarity, it would be good to call out the lifetime of the TCP connection.
Yeah, also one other comment on this bullet, like it's not clear from this bullet whether it's saying this flow table size is like the size of the provisioning of the flow table, because this is like the worst case, like number of flows, like based on a 1 second timer with that connection per second. It doesn't necessarily say that the flow table needs to be filled to that size. So like, I just think that that bullet is problematic because it's not clear. And I think that you're inferring from that maybe things that didn't necessarily need to be inferred.
Mircea's been working pretty
correct,
close with. Go ahead, Mircea. Sorry.
No, that is correct. That I'm inferring from this text that I need to fill the flow table size to that. And if it clarifies that the flow table size, when I pull the DPU stats, doesn't need to be 14 million, so yeah.
No, but John, we do need to test that scenario, right? At how the system behave when we fill up the flow table.
Right.
And by the way, the flow table size per the scale document, it's actually around 60 something million flows.
I agree, but I think that that should be like, that should be tested by specifying what the flow lifetime is in conjunction with the aging time, you know, and so like you specify those and the flow table fills up. Like, I think, I guess my biggest issue is like, I don't think that you ever need keepalives for the CPS load. And I think like you're inferring the keepalives because of this bullet, and I think it's just wasn't clear enough to say like you never need keepalives if you really want to test like a full table, that you would control that with the aging time and the flow lifetime.
Right. Why? Yeah, I was going to ask the same thing. Why we need the keep alive? Because if the device can age it out soon as possible, and the capacity will be tested, and the flow table size will be tested accordingly.
I think it was because the flow table was quite small, wasn't it, Mircea?
So if I close the flows as soon as possible, then when you ask the DPU for stats, what your flow table size, the return value is very small compared to this. So the way I'm inferring and I'm reading this, it's flow table size equal 14 million. Okay, and this is just the math how they reach to 14 million. So when I do DPU get flow table size, I need to see a number close to 14 million during the test. This is what I'm inferring. This math, this is just the math how they reach to 14 million value. But when I get the flow table size stat, I need to see 14 million reported.
Yeah, and so I think you're assuming that that's what this means, okay? But yes,
that is correct.
I interpret this differently. What I interpret this is to say that your data plane should be provisioned with a flow table of 14 million flows, and that, you know, the dynamics of the test will determine like how full it is out of those 14 million. Like when, if someone said, what's your flow table size? Hey, I've got a DPU. What's your flow table size? Oh, our flow table size is 64 million. It's like a static number of your capacity. I don't think that this is a statement as to like, when you run the test, given all of these parameters, you have to see 14 million. I think that you can adjust the parameters to show that it gets to the 14 million.
Okay, in that case, this is why I'm now passing it over to Microsoft to adjust the parameters or clarify here.
Yeah,
right. You know, you understood something, I understood something else, somebody else understood something. So now, you know, what it is. That is desired.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And that's good that we can run this down. So we'll try and run this down for you. But, you know, beware I might send you guys an email just to clarify, like, okay,
Yes.
John, okay, Reshma, Mircea, like, or Suresh, Ned. I'm just going to call you Suresh, Ned. Are we all on the same page as to what we mean here when we're taking it to the SDN team, you know, as to exactly what we're testing? So, and Gerald, of course, when he comes back. So if you see an email from me, don't send it to junk.
Okay. And in the lab, just to be clear, I try all variations here. I try basically don't care about this value, just let it go as fast as possible and see what it is, but then I don't see this. Or increase the flow timer and then you see this and you see what happens. So yeah, it's for me it's very easy. Just we need to decide which version we want to do.
Yep. No, that's great help, you guys. Thank you. It's good to get it super, super crisp. So thanks. And Mircea, we have another meeting on Monday too, where we can talk about it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I'll probably send out a note saying what I think I'm hearing the problem statement is to you guys, and then you guys reply back and refine it, and then we can chase it down, okay?
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. Okay.
Christina, I think we had a small update about the SAI PTF framework that we had adapted to Dash, and that's now being used in the CI that Chris has. So maybe Volodymyr Mytnyk, would you like to talk about it a little bit? Christina, is it okay?
Yeah, if you don't mind, it would like just a few minutes probably to describe what the change was into the Dash.
Mircea, were you done, Mircea?
Excuse me, Christina?
Yes.
You're done, Mircea? Yeah, great. Go ahead, Volodymyr. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So let just me share my screen. Okay, so I want to show the one of the pull requests that has been closed recently. Second. Yeah, so this one. So what we did here is we changed CI and we talked with the Chris about the change. So we changed to CI to use the development actual branch, which includes the changes for the PTF that we done for the Dash. Yeah, so right now, anytime you run you create a pull request, the CI will trigger based on that branch, and it means that you can now start using the SAI PTF to write your test case and use all changes we done for the Dash. And yeah, so this is the one of the also development branches that we are going to create the pull request for this. So we put the example of the overlay, let's say, scenario for the VNET. So it's just an example. So it still needs to be updated based on the latest SAI changes. But anyway, you can see and how the PTF structure may look like and how to write your own test cases. So we have the test case itself. We have some basic stuff that needed to run it, and you can just to see how it looks like, what classes you have to use, and what stuff you need to do just to set up and tear down your setup. To be able to run the test case, you can use the document that is referenced in the Dash repo. So there is a PTF user guide, so you can use it as an instruction to run your PTF test cases. For example, in our case, it can be the SAI VNET. And actually, that's it. So just, the brief introduction into the PTF test cases, how it's going to look like. I know that there is some test case in the VNET folder right now. So probably we can, during the time, we can merge them into one test case or have them separately. That's it.
Yeah, Volodymyr, thanks. As you and I were talking Friday about this, it would be nice to update the SAI PTF user guide to be a little more practical towards like a Dash use case, because it sort of has, the user guide has elements to maybe a VS type, Sonic VS type test or a ASIC switch type test. But it doesn't really talk about like how you do an actual Dash DPU test. So it'd be nice as time goes on to document a little more practical setup and usage.
In the user guide today, I think we have the RIF test, which is the router interface. Very, very basic
Right.
test to start with.
Yeah.
Just to, again, the user guide is basically saying how to use the test framework and how to integrate the test cases into the framework and all that, how to run it.
Well,
but yeah, I guess, once we have the VNET case solidified, the test case, we could possibly use that there as well, or create another, example number 2 to show the Dash.
Yeah, Reshma, in particular, I'm talking about like how you'd like a little diagram that shows actual connections. Right now, the user guide leaves a lot to the imagination. It shows an example of a command line, but it has like Ethernets in there, which you wouldn't use for a real DPU. You'd use Ethernet and NIC ports. Just something a little more practical so someone could actually follow the instructions and just get an example working. Right now, there's still missing pieces in the instructions. That's what I mean. And Volodymyr and I talked about this, so I think he knows what I'm talking about. It has it has examples like for a Sonic switch or a BS, but not a DPU. So if we could just get something a little more concrete that helps someone actually do it step by step, I think it would be valuable, over time. But I agree that this PR was really important. Just to sort of provide a little more perspective. I was also Mukesh from AMD also found out that the PTF repo that was in use in SAI Thrift was not supporting VXLAN properly, and he came up with a patch for that. But then talking with Volodymyr, he had a better long-term approach, and that's to update PTF itself. And so this pull request he just did, and we committed it, uses the development branch of SAI, the Dash branch, which has a development branch of PTF to fix these VXLAN problems. So
right, I think Volodymyr Mytnyk had come across this VXLAN problem during the VNET test case that was being written. So he had made that fix, I believe.
Yeah, and Mukesh found it the same thing doing his VNet tests. So now we have a consolidated solution.
Right. That is, reason why we wanted to talk about it today is because we are seeing, more usage of this framework. So thanks very much to Mukesh. And Mukesh, please reach out to Volodymyr Mytnyk, myself, and Chris if you have any issues. And, we can probably everyone work together, as Christina was saying, for the third stage of the test maturity. We could start to use this.
Yeah.
Hey, sure. I had one question here. This is Mukesh. So I thought we fixed it by actually moving to the latest version of SAI PTF, right? Like moving to 0.93. So why do we need to now switch to a development branch? I thought the 0.93 did solve the issue.
So yeah, Volodymyr Mytnyk, you want to talk about it?
Yeah, so I can explain briefly. So the issue that you faced, this is only one issue, but once you're trying to send the packet and compare the VXLAN packets, then you may hit the problems. So to fix it, we need to patch the PTF again. So this is why we provided the development version of the PTF, and probably we're going to upstream it. Yes, so there is another problem.
The development branch basically has the framework that is adapted to Dash. That's the main reason and it's not yet there in SAI, and we wanted all of us to use it before we upstream it to SAI, but we could start that process in parallel. Please continue.
Yeah, Mukesh, if you look at your pull request 193, I added some detailed comments last night on this.
Yeah.
And
I'll take a look, Chris.
Yeah, it turned out I was working both with you last week and then Volodymyr, and we had conversations and we put it all together. And I think this is the final better interim solution.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah. But thanks for both you all your work on this, and we're all finding these little landmines and fixing them. So, do we want to spend a couple minutes just looking at outstanding PRs and try to get some motion in a few areas? We have a few fairly simple PRs in the pipeline that probably are waiting for reviews. And if
that would be great. We have so many people.
Yeah, we ought to just either say, okay, I approve it, or I'll get to it shortly, because some of these have been waiting for a good week for reviews. And pull request 193 is one of them.
You want to present, or do you want me to do it?
I can share my screen.
Okay.
Can you see?
Yeah.
So let's just kind of go through some of the ones that are top of mind for me. One of them is this one that Mukesh started, and this began the whole VXLAN journey in this discussion we just had. But he's waiting for some reviews. I know, Reshma, you had asked to be on the reviewer last week, I think last Thursday, and Marian's in the queue. So if you guys could just look at this code, and sorry, here's all the changes. If you want to just take a look through all this. Now, Mukesh, you need to kind of back out some of these little changes to go back to what Volodymyr did. Just back out a couple things and retry it.
Sure, yeah, I'll do that.
And if it doesn't work, we need to know right away and fix it. We'll do that and do whatever it takes to get it going, because we don't want a broken pipeline. But there's just, there's some changes here that we need reviewing on, or just, approve it and say to Mukesh, you're okay. And let's see, that's that one that we need to do. And this one here also, another one from Mukesh that's fixing the drop action. So, either review it, say it's okay, or, recuse yourself from the review list, and we can let this go too. And then I don't know, Marian, there's one here, but it looks like we have a problem in the tooling. There was an action. Let's see. In the SAI generation, there's some kind of a problem here.
Yeah, I'm aware of that.
Okay, I don't know if this PR is pressing or not, or you just stay in the background. It's up to you.
Yeah, it actually is. I guess it's the last change for VNET to VNET.
Yeah, it would be nice to kind of clean up these VNET PRs as soon as possible and get them done, because there's going to be a lot of energy putting into writing test cases for these now. Keysight and other people obviously are working on this, so let's try to close these things up and we can move on. Be great. That's kind of all I wanted to talk about.
Did anyone else have a PR they wanted to bring up while we're here?
The spell check one, that's a controversial one. So yeah, basically I had a bunch of spells that are in my PRs, and then I went and used a tool and fixed everyone's spell checks in the whole repo, and then I added a git action for it. But the thing is, if we decide to take this git action, if you have a spelling error, it will get flagged. And also, if you use a word that is not in the dictionary, but not necessarily a spelling error, like, I don't know, your name, or, some term that is used in Dash and nowhere else, it needs to be added to the dictionary. And there is a dictionary, the word list file that is there.
Yeah.
Currently has about 600 words added by me.
Where is it? It's in here.
On the left side. Yeah.
So basically, it's going to run in the pipeline a spell check. And, you know, given that these are technical documents, there's tons of words that a standard spell checker doesn't know. So you have to build this dictionary. Right. And so the implication of this is if we enable this, then anyone who writes a README is going to be pestered by spell check failure until you added the word to the dictionary.
Or you fix the spell check error.
Yeah. The good news is we fixed about 400 or 600 errors. There was a lot of, you know, misspellings, most of mine because I wrote so many documents. But so this is
a good one. Does anyone have a strong opinion on this? Yes or no? You want to speak out or raise your hands, or you know,
Yeah, just one comment. So I think the spell checking is really great tool for the CI, but I understand that it will fail, you know, if everyone will try to push with some, you know, word that is not in the dictionary. But can we make this trigger this job do not trigger error, but for example some warning, so
yeah, that was my first thought about to make it as a warning, but Git does not allows you error, fail, in progress, and pass. Has no concept of warning, and people are asking for this feature for years. There is some hacky ways to do where you can do it. It will show as a fail. It will still have the red X, but it will not block the PR. So basically, although it's a failure, does not block the PR, and you can still merge the PR in. That's something that can be done, but changing it to a warning, yeah, a long-standing feature request for Git.
Interesting. Prince, do you have an opinion on this?
Why the half measure? If we agree on having the spell check, let it trigger an error. What's the point of having a warning and committing a pull request with errors, even if it's spell checking?
Well, we could try it for a while until there's a community outcry.
Until there's an outcry.
People come with their shovels and pitchforks. That's a reference to hunting witches, right?
Right. I would just hate to do it and have people be against it. Like if you're against it, please say something.
Yeah, this is a controversial one. So.
Yeah, no, I agree that we should keep the error part because of the fact that, you know, if you keep putting the warnings in there, we continue to, you know, what they call accumulate technical debt, right? So then at some point we'll have to pay that debt. So would we rather pay it now or we pay it later, right? And once we have it a lot more, then I think it just basically will be sometimes unsurmountable part of the thing that we have to really take care of, right?
Yeah. Well, you know, the people who contribute a lot of pull requests to the repo, we've got Bud, we've got John, we've got Marian, me, I do a few, Reshma, you guys. Bud, do you have a opinion?
I'm fine with it being an error. That's the way it worked at my last employer. So
okay. All right. Well, it sounds like the larger contributors to the repo are okay with it.
I'm okay. We can always, if we regret it, we can just change it. But I think it's a good thing to do.
Okay.
Keep the standard high.
Okay. This
repo has a lot more READMEs than a lot of other community projects. There's a lot more explanation of things, which is good. And it was a huge investment. Let's keep the quality high. Right? There's a lot of repos that have no READMEs. You just have to read the code. And, you know, we're putting an investment in documentation, so we may as well make it shine. That's my feeling.
Okay. Anyone else have a PR they want to check out? We can give 15 minutes back also.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure would be welcome.
I'm like, we're good.
Okay, great. Well, I'll stop the recording and we will definitely try and run down this issue we've been talking about today. It's important. So, and John, thanks for bringing it up. You know, you always bring interesting insight. So thank you. And you guys have a good day.
Thanks a lot, Christina.
Okay.
Bye. Thank you.
See you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.